AI art. Artificial intelligence is creating art. The tools like Midjourney, DALL-E, Kyber, Stable Fusion can create imageries and videos just by inputting simple prompts. On one hand, this is democratizing the art world. And on the other hand, artists are a bit worried that they are going to be replaced. So, how does one find their artistic voice? Or is it possible to use AI as a creative collaborator to amplify their own artistic voice? Myself, Vimal Chandran. I'm a multidisciplinary visual artist and I majorly work with illustration, photography, and film. So today, I'm going to answer this question by taking you through some of my artwork from the series Folk Sci-Fi. It's called Folk Science Fiction. I'm going to explain you the idea and the concept behind this series of artwork. I'm also going to explain you the process and tools I used for making this artwork. So by the end of the session, I guess you might have at least one approach of finding your own voice in the age of AI. So let's begin. This all started with my birthplace. I grew up in a village called Palakkad, Kerala. So these are some of the pictures from the place. These are taken right behind my home. Isn't it really beautiful? So when I was a kid, I I used to listen to the stories and myths from my natives. The stories I heard are often mixed with fact and fiction, and most of the time, the boundaries between them are blurred tactically by the storyteller. So I can see all the mythical characters once in every year, which is called a temple festival, Puram. I guess you might have heard about it when you are in Kerala. So it was like a cultural comic con where you can meet all of your favorite characters performing live. So at the same time, I was also fascinated by comic books. I especially liked one book named Misha. This was published by Russian embassy and it was available in Kerala in the early 90s. So I was a big fan of this book. Misha was my first entry point to the Western sci-fi stories. This book was different from the usual comics book available to us at the time, and this was painted nicely. This was printed nicely on a colorful glossy paper, and the layout was fantastic. I really like to flip through the pages and to see all the spaceship and the robots. So this is an interesting scenario. As somebody living in a remote village in Kerala, listening to their own stories, at the same time, I'm seeing the pictures of the Western sci-fi stories. I think this stark contrast had a great impact on my creative storytelling ability. So, art was always been a passion. It has been in my life all the time. In school and colleges, I was always the guy identified as the guy who can draw. So, but like most of the students in India, I studied engineering. In fact, after studying engineering, I came down to Bangalore to work as a software engineer for Philips. And I worked there for almost 2 years. Then I later moved into Honeywell. Then after a while, I quit the job. See, this is a classic TEDx story. The guy following his fashion and quitting his job. But that's not the topic of the day. So I quit the job in 2013 and dedicated full time into visual art. I had almost forgotten my interesting crossover, my childhood crossover between uh, sci-fi and myths until one day. It was in 2021. I came back to my hometown in Kerala because of COVID and I stayed there for a while. At the same time, I became an uncle. Uh, the little man from my family is called Tanay. He was around 1.5 years at the time. So there was a Pura festival was happening at that time. So we all decided to go there. So we reached the Puran ground around midnight, around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. Tanay was sleeping in the car. And once we reached there, he woke up and he started observing everything. Actually, the atmosphere was electrifying with shimmering lights, street vendors, uh, balloons, possession, etc., etc. And Tane was seeing something like this for the first time, but he was just 1.5 years old. And he started observing as if like he just woke up into a dream. Then I started watching him. Then I remembered something. I know this guy. I have seen this guy. I used to look at everything in the same way. So that's where exactly I remembered my childhood crossover once again. And I started to look at the entire Uran ground in a different perspective. So, as I already told you, the atmosphere was electrifying, and it was like a screenshot from a cyberpunk movie. And it was like there was a slight dust and mist in the atmosphere, which gives a dramatic look to the whole scene. So, what happened is there was a procession happening nearby, which is called Kudravela, uh, a procession based on wooden decorated horse. Kudra means horse in Malayalam, Vela means festival. So, Tane was looking at it. So I clicked some of the pictures, and these are the pictures I clicked. You can see Tanai in the left. The left picture is Tanai and the procession, and there are some balloons. I clicked some random pictures. When I was a kid, I used to look at this procession. I mean, this Kudira procession as a giant spaceship visiting Earth. So I came back home, start drawing my sketch. So based on all this inspiration, I came back home and start doing some rough sketch, and I created my first work from the series folk sci-fi, which is called The Arrival. So this was the first work which I created. As you can see, uh, I have incorporated all the characters from the previous slide, the balloons, uh, the possession. Even I have incorporated the bicycle of Tanai. So once I made this illustration, I minted it as NFT. Now, what is NFT? NFT is called non-fungible token. Non-fungible token. It's actually a technique used to authenticate digital artwork using blockchain technology. Once I minted as NFT, it got collected within 24 hours, and I got really excited. So what happened is this was my Genesis NFT, and now you guys know the story of this. So this became the cover of the art special edition of Mint launch at that time. So this NFT, I mean this digital art, became one of the first digital art from the genre Indo-futurism. Now, what is Indo-futurism? Indo-futurism is a captivating artistic movement emerged in India where artists draw inspiration from the rich tradition and culture of India, and they try to visualize Indian narrative in a futuristic context. And this became one of the first uh, Indo-futurism artwork minted on an NFT, minted as an NFT and collected on an Indian platform. So after that, I want to explore this concept further. So I started remembering my childhood characters, and this is another character in Kerala, which is called Velichapad. Velichapad is actually an orator or mediator between the god and the devotees, often seen in Hindu temples in Kerala. So my first memory of meeting a Velichapad for the first time is still in my mind. So I was around 6 to 7 years old. I was coming back from school and I saw a Velichapad under a cluster of arecanut trees. He was sitting there with his head resting on the tree trunk, and uh, he was holding a very large sickle sword in one hand and closed his eyes. When I approached him, he suddenly opened his eyes and stared right back at me. I was so scared with that fierce look, and I ran away. So my next illustration is based on that particular memory, which is called Revealer of the Light. Velichapadu in Malayalam means the revealer of the light. So as you can see, I reinterpreted the character of Velichapadu into something uh, which is more sci-fi. So I want to take it one more step ahead. So here is the next character, which is called Pudan. So Pudan is a uh, folklore idolatry character enacted by a village performer. They often visit at Kerala villages during harvest season. They usually paint uh, their face with bright colors, and they wear brass ornaments and dance to the tune of the drums. So famous Malayalam poet whose name is Idashiri Govindan Nair, who created a poem based on this particular character, which is called Pooda Pat, the song of the Poodam. So he reinterpreted this real character of Poodam, and according to him, there lived a wretched, wretched poltergeist named Poodam on top of a hill. So he loves to hallucinate people and abducts them using his magical powers. And one day he find a little boy, and he or she develop a great deal of affection towards him. So she abduct him. Uh, his poor mother named Nangeli became so sad, and she sets out in search for the boy, and they finally realize that the boy is with the Pudam. And the rest of the poem narrate the negotiation or the conflict between the Pudam and the mother. So finally, the Pudam surrender in front of motherly affection and hand over the boy back to the mother. But actually, Pudam really loved the boy. So Pudam asked, "Can I visit the boy every year?" And mother agrees to that. But something strange happened. They forgot to exchange the address. So according to the poet, the Pudam visit each of these villages during harvest season looking for the boy. So it visit one of the house and start playing to the tune of the drums just to make the boy happy. Then later realize that the boy is not there in the house. So it runs to the next house. It's kind of a sad, eternal, uh, what do you call sad, eternal fate of the Pudam. So I heard this poem when I was a kid. My father used to recite this poem. So each time when I see a Pudam performance, I try to connect the Pudam with the Pudam from this poetry. I really feel sad for the Pudam. I wanted them to, I wanted the Pudam to meet the boy one day. So my next illustration is about that meeting. This is titled as The Visit. Here you can see the mother and the boy, and the Pudam I reinterpreted as a sci-fi character, as a spaceship. So I created almost 20 of these kind of illustrations. Each of them has a backstory associated with my own life. These are some of other works. Okay, I wanted to take the entire concept one step ahead. So when I collaborated with brands like Vivo, OnePlus, and Dell XPS, I tried to create story based on this sci-fi concept. So I even created this short film, The Birth, uh, for Vivo India. This was shot entirely on a mobile phone. This was based on one of the 90s popular myth. When you keep a peacock feather inside a book, this will give birth to more of them. So I took this idea and give a small sci-fi twist to it. And this short film is based on that. If you have not seen it, it's there in my social handles. You can go and check it out. When Lamborghini asked me for a collaboration for the global art project, I came up with exactly the same idea. I considered their car as a futuristic object in a remote village. I asked them to ship the car into my own native in Kerala. So they shipped the car. Then we filmed the interaction of the car with the village characters and the mythical elements in my area. This one is also there in the this film you might have already seen. If it's not there, it's still there in the my social handles. You guys can go and check it out. Okay, so I want to take this artistic journey one more step ahead. So I'm currently working on a full-fledged feature film. So I started writing the script 8 months back, and the script is almost ready. I still have a long way to go. So what I did was, when writing the script, I used AI as a creative collaborator, because in a film it's about 80 to 120 scenes. So visualizing each of the scene is very difficult. So I asked AI to generate images. So I give my own artwork and photograph as input, and they generated images like this, which is more close to my own work. So AI can create any type of images, and it's going to get better and better in the future. But AI still lacks artistic cognition. Art doesn't have an intrinsic value without an artist behind it. So going forward, more and more AI generated images must be used by the corporates and the companies because they always love to cut down the budget for the creatives to maximize their own profit. So you're going to see more and more generic AI images in the mainstream, like in the advertisement and the production in the coming years. And I'm sure that it's going to be more bleak and soulless. But remember one thing, AI has not lived our life. It's we who has lived and experienced all those feelings. The feeling of love, sufferings, joy, ecstasy, surprises, nostalgia, etc., etc. So if you want to find a creative voice in this AI age, you have to look inwards into your own life and to be true to that. So when you create art with all the elements available in front of you, including AI, that's going to be more authentic and timeless. If I had shown you these images in the beginning of the illustration and I told you, okay, I have created these images using AI, you might have think like, okay, so these are the images created using AI and what's the big deal in that? But now you know how did I end up here? What is the story behind these images? I'm sure that now you can say that these are not created by a machine because each of these elements had something which is unique to my own life. So if someone asks me, how much time does it take for you to make these kind of images using AI? I usually reply, it took me almost my age. Thank you.